Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 606. Today we're going to talk about Lazer Ryderz. Now this is a new game from Greater Than Games in their fabled Nexus line, and this box is really weird and really cool. So this is the box that you'll get the game in, and it has sort of like all of the player pieces for each of the players in its own kind of like VCR sort of cassette tape type of little mini box. Now this is a little bit longer and taller than a normal VCR box, but these are all the components. If you wanted to play the Laser Shark here, for example, you would take these pieces and you would get all the pieces. Now, what the idea of the game is each player, 2 to 4 players, will take one of the boxes and they'll have these sort of templates, these moving templates. If you think like X-Wing or some other style of game, Path to Wings of Glory, that style of a flight path game, then that's how you're going to move around. So what you're going to do is you're going to set out these objectives, and then players are going to kind of fly like these sort of Tron cycle 80s looking fancy surfboard type of things, and kind of flip the objectives as you pass over it. You're going to flip it to your color, and then once you flip 3 to your color, then you're going to win. And you can crash into each other, kind of like if you remember the movie Tron, where you have the light bikes and then you hit the wall and that's going to make you blow up and you restart and pick everything up. But let's jump into how the mechanics work, then I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, here's just about all the components that you get in the game. Now I've just cracked open the boxes for the Laser Shark player here. This is the purple player. And then also for yellow here, the Super Sheriff player there. Now I've also got 2 other boxes to kind of show you some of their thematic artwork. Here's the Wave Rider, and then also the Phantom Cosmonaut there. Now there are some pieces that are kind of mixed and strewn throughout the boxes that are neutral pieces. Like we have these are the little tiles that you're actually going to flip to your player color as you go over them. So there'll be like one of these in each of the boxes. You get all 4 of those. Then you have the turn order markers, which will just be in kind of a random box. There's a tiebreaker, and then there's the die. So if you crack this open and you're like, hey, where's the die, where's the turn order marker, it's going to be in one of the other boxes. I will say, do be careful when you open the boxes for the first time, because these little buggers here might slip out. So you've got these little standees, and these are like little speed gauges here. And you can see this is the cowboy here. And so, I don't know, in the camera it might be kind of weird looking, because you can kind of see, if I just move this kind of holographic thing. It looks really cool in person, but maybe picking up for camera isn't the best. So you can kind of see a good image of her there, and then we'll look at the Laser Shark one here, which is probably more difficult to see. That doesn't look too bad on there. So you're going to be getting these, and then you can see you get all of these different templates here, and these are limited. So once you use like your big number 5, well, you've got 2 of them, but once you use those up, you can't use those until you crash and reset. So you have a whole bunch of these templates, a whole bunch of these tokens here, which is what you're going to do to flip the neutral markers to your color. You also have kind of a starting point here. This is going to go flat on the edge of the table, or whatever you kind of define as your playing surface. And you can see you kind of shoot out of these 3 angles like so. And then the advanced game, which I would say probably don't play with your first time, but after you get used to the game, definitely do play with this. You can see it's got a little token here with the player image there, and then a special ability there, and there's a little bit of text further here in the rule book to kind of go over that more. So let's kind of set up kind of a makeshift little play area here. It's kind of hard to get all this. The game says the ideal setup is a 3x3 area. Preferably kind of a rounded area, I gather, but it does give you instructions and rules for how to set up kind of oblong shapes and different shapes in bigger areas and smaller areas, and what to do with that. Basically, that consists of using these longer markers here, take them out of the game, and use them as kind of borders. So you won't be able to do a really long movement, but if you're playing on a smaller surface area, then you don't really want to do that, because these are kind of too long for that. But you can use these as sort of walls and borders to mark the edge of the space. Now typically you're going to set up 4 of these neutral markers spaced out at least 3 distance apart, whatever your 3 length marker is. Kind of space these out evenly until everybody agrees they're in a good spot. And I kind of apologize for the scratched mat here. I'm working on getting a new table surface and everything, but you'll set these up. Each player is going to take and then put these on the edge of wherever their kind of corner of the table is. And what you're going to do is you're going to close your eyes, and then you're going to put these down like so. So just pretend like, I'll put this at the bottom of the camera there, like that. So that's maybe the edge of my table. And then each player is going to, in a hidden way, and then simultaneously reveal which gear, which speed you're going to start in. So maybe I chose 3, and then Billy over here, they chose 1 for their starting thing there. And I'll just put this guy over here on the edge. I knew this would have a hard time focusing. We'll just put that right on the edge there, kind of move these out a little bit. And then, starting in whoever's going fastest is going to then get the start player token, and then the next fastest will get second, and so on. Now before the game, you're going to have this tiebreaker token. So if people are, they pick the same speed, or they start the round off at the same speed, whoever is tiebreaker and then going clockwise will then break the turn order there. So this is very interesting to kind of play around with, because this is going to move around the table round by round. So that tiebreaker is going to shift. Now, if to start the game, 2 players are at the same speed, they're both going to sort of stall out in a way, and everybody that is tied is going to go to speed 1. So you don't want to like go too fast, because then everybody else might pick too fast. Because you can see it's definitely an advantage to shoot out and get close to one of these tokens here. So it's kind of a little mechanism there to stop everybody from just going speed 5 and triggering something on the first turn. So then going in turn order, you're going to be able to then shift up or down from whatever speed you're at. So if you're at 3 at the start of your turn, you can shift down to 2, stay at 3, or shift up to 4. And then you're going to go that speed. Now let's say we were going 3. There's a couple of different 3s here. We have here kind of a hard turn, kind of a smoother turn, and then you have a straight here. Now, before you do anything, you can't pre-measure at all. You can't sit there and say, oh, I could get here this, if I could try this one. And that's really the key to the game, is starting to learn your best judgment. And in this aspect, it's a lot like X-Wing. I mean, this is going to be an acquired skill. If you're really an excellent X-Wing player, then you're going to really be kind of have a head start with this game here. But let's say you just wanted to move 3, and so you just come up here. And you can, if you want, we found this kind of gets in the way, but it's also a little thematic, is you can, of course, put your little guy there on the edge, but there's a slight bump on my table there. But you can put this guy on the edge. You don't really have to, because you just know that your guy's at the edge, and this is just kind of for looks there. And then everybody's going to take their turn, so maybe he came out this way and he did a curve or something like that, and I'll explain how curves work in a minute. And then the tiebreaker is going to move around the table, and then whatever your current speed is going to be then is going to dictate the turn order. Again, the tiebreaker is going to break the ties in terms of if multiple people have the same speed. So there's going to be a little bit of shuffling around of the turn order every single round based on who's going faster, because whoever's going faster should be going earlier, because they're going a further distance and they're going a much greater speed. So they're going to get to react first. And that's going to be coming, it's sometimes important if you get to the point where, I'm just going to kind of dovetail these out here, when people are getting really close possibly to the same objective, that's going to be pretty important because we'll talk about how to actually flip these objectives. But first, let's talk about what happens when you turn. That's very important. Let's just kind of move that over there, and then say they wanted to try a turn 2. They were going speed 3, and then we were going to do that. So let's say we chose 2. Now before you do a turn, you're going to roll this dice here. And you can see it's got all the different gauges, 1 through 5, and then it also has this spin out here. So you're going to do, before you roll, before you even actually place your token, you're going to roll a die. Oh, and then I spun out. Now let's pretend I didn't spin out for right now. So if you roll equal to or greater than your whatever your current speed is, then you're going to be fine. So we rolled a 2, no big deal. We'll be able to successfully do that. And then we'll move through. I'll talk about how you actually trigger this in a second. Now let's say we're trying a really big turn here. We're trying a 4 in this case, and which would not be good here because we're going to go around it. But in this case, you're actually going to fail the turn. You're going to fail the bank, and then you're just going to go straight instead of whatever speed you were going for. So in this case, we would fail the turn and we would go straight 4. And that's if we roll less than whatever our current speed is. Now if you roll the spin out, you're going to do the turn successfully. I'll show that here a little closer. If you roll that, you're going to do the turn whatever it was. So let's say we did the 2 here. But then after that move, you're immediately going to stall out and shift that all the way down to 1. So you make the turn, but you kind of spin out over to where you're going. Now let's talk about flipping these. Now to flip these, you have to go directly through them. So if I was going through this way, we can see that. Let's say I want to do a 1 here. Now, when you pass through this, this is not going to count as a score, because you can see if I bring it up closer that I'm just going on the edge of it. Now what that's going to do is that's actually going to bump it away from the side that it's kind of most on. So you're going to bump it away, and then you're going to take one of these, you're going to have at least about kind of the width of that. However, if you kind of pass through it directly, so you can see kind of daylight on either side of the template there, then you're going to score it. And so what's going to happen, let's say we move through here like this, and we scored it like that. We're going to move it up to the edge there, and then we're going to take and put our own color token there. So take that off and put that there like that. And so this is now counting for one of our points, and you're going to play till somebody gets 3 of these. But somebody else can flip this back to their color. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take, kind of close your eyes and throw this out on the table somewhere. Just make sure it's a certain distance away and not touching anybody else's rails or anything like that. And then so these are now give other opportunities for people to score, including the one that you just scored. So it is possible for somebody else to come cruise along, and then they would go through it in this way. And then at that point, then it's going to flip to them, and then you would just take this back. However, if they ever hit any other part of your trail, or if you hit your own trail, then they're going to blow up, basically remove all the tracks, and then they're going to have to reset up their starting point. So they're going to go from the same edge of the table, kind of close their eyes, move it back and forth, and then put it down on the edge, and they're going to start from there. And then in this case, let's say purple went through here, this is going to destroy everything, including this one here, and everything back for yellow. So yellow, if they're, let's say they'd moved out a little bit further up here, then this is all going to get destroyed here, and yellow will effectively get these back, which is kind of useful, because as you start to dwindle down, you don't usually get close to running out, but sometimes you can get close to running out of certain ones. But you're going to give them these templates back, so they're going to have a little bit more use there, and they're going to be fine just up here. The other way you'll crash is if you go beyond a table edge. It's the same idea. You blow up all your pieces and then restart over. Now the other neat thing are these player abilities. So let's take a look at a couple of these that I've got out. So let's take a look at these here. Now the yellow one is choose one opponent. You may shift them up to their highest gear or down to first. You may only use this ability on your turn. So you can really mess with somebody's, what their current speed is to kind of throw them off. Now when you use your special ability, you're going to flip this over, and you can't use it for the rest of the game unless somebody takes one of your prisms away from you and then flips it over to their side. So if they steal a prism that they've unlocked there, then you can then reactivate that ability, because that's going to be a pretty huge swing of points. Now this other one is really cool. I like this one. I've actually used this one when I've played. It says, after placing your laser piece, place the highest numbered straight piece you have available. But it says, if you do not score this turn, you crash. So you can kind of curve and then try to shoot out right to that scoring one. But again, you can't pre-measure, and you've got to, you have to use it once you say, I'm going to use that, and then you're going to curve or whatever, and then shoot out even further, possibly a 3 or a 4 or a 5, and hope that you actually score. Because if you don't, you crash and you have to start over. So this is kind of a cool kind of push your luck. I think I've got that eyeballed. I want to race Billy to that point, maybe right at the end of the game, and just kind of hit the gas and score that winning point there. So these are really fun to kind of play around with. Okay, so that is Lazer Ryderz. The first thing I want to say about the game is it looks really cool once you're kind of into the game a little bit and you've got all these tracks flying everywhere, and your options kind of really start to crunch down and be very limited in terms of where you can go without crashing and stuff like that. It's a really cool looking atmosphere, and it has these, I really like it. It's a very simple idea, I think, but with these sort of, I don't know, holographic or shiny, glittery things on the components. A really, really cool thing. Now I will say you want to play this with 3 or 4 players, I would say. It's really nice that it kind of allows you to sort of just define your table space, and you just kind of make a kind of a agreement to, say this is fair and we'll play it this way. The game's really quick to play. It's really, for me, it's kind of a breath of fresh air. So a lot of points here. I mean, the packaging is really cool and different. It's got that really kind of retro 80s vibe, and the game style, it evokes Tron and that sort of really kind of 8-bit type of idea, and the kind of the neon graphics. So that kind of stuff really kind of sucks you into it. But in terms of like what you're kind of doing with your brain as you play the game, it's very, very different. I mean, of course it reminds me of X-Wing, but just to the degree that the movement is like X-Wing. But the movement here is a little bit more interesting, I think, than X-Wing. X-Wing, of course, got a lot more going on with your ship special abilities and Star Wars and stuff. But this is interesting in terms of the way that you try to sort of strategize and plot where you're going to move, and how you're going to get those last points and stuff like that. So maybe you ram into the front of somebody's trail and kind of blow up everybody and reset, and in terms of the timing, and then like what speed are you going, and which of the different prisms are you going to go after, because Billy gets a little bit of a lead, so maybe you go after his, or maybe there's a real juicy neutral one over here and that kind of thing. So you're really kind of picking and choosing your opportunities in terms of what am I going to go after, what's everybody else going to do. So it's very interesting that way. And really, I don't really have a game like this in my collection. And X-Wing, like I said, is a 2-player game, because I think a lot of people are really going to compare this to X-Wing because it's got the same kind of flight path movement. But it's a very different feeling game than that. And I would say this is much better with a 3 and 4-player count. And you just have that real fun, just chaotic kind of movement. You even got a little bit of that randomness with the dice rolling on the turn, which is very thematically evocative, because you're on these giant laser surfboards that maybe you have a hard time controlling, and I think that kind of goes with the theme of the game. Just these really kind of out for the gusto, crazy space riders that are just living on the edge and going way faster than they should, trying to win this sort of futuristic, arena game or whatever this is. So all that stuff really kind of ties into it and all fits together as a unique package. But the game's very, very simple in terms of like, you've got your gear, you go up or down 1 or 2, or up or down 1, I should say, and then you kind of go for it. And just the fact that you can't measure is going to be sort of just that extra little layer of skill that kind of keep you coming back and playing for repeated plays. But that's a skill that you can kind of develop, and as you sort of start to kind of create little landmarks for yourself on the table space, I think that's going to be a very fun thing for people to sort of develop and get into and start to really get good at. So I definitely recommend this game. Very, very fun. The packaging is really neat. Like I said at the beginning of the walkthrough, just be a little bit careful on packing the package. I should say, it looks like, this is going to be a pain to pack away, but these little vacuum trays here, you can see all the different pieces here. Like here's all the straights, so the 1, the 2, the 3s, and then the 5s here go across like so. You can see that there, see that sort of thing there. So everything kind of fits back. So once you learn how to pack everything away, it's really cool. It just all packs away and fits nicely in these little VCR cases. So they did a really good job on the production and everything. So I definitely recommend this. This is going to stay in my collection at least for a while, and fits a nice little niche that I didn't really know that I needed or was certainly looking for. Quick kind of filler game, pretty exciting, pretty fun, dramatic. You can make some kind of interesting tactical and strategic choices of it, all baked into about a half hour or so to play once you kind of get the hang of it. So definitely recommend Lazer Ryderz. Thanks.